Hey everyone, okay, so episode 7 was also amazing. I'm like really giddy right now because I just finished watching the sneak peeks for next week, and the last one I watched was the one where Alec and Izzy are in the police station and Alec has to go and talk to the police. I couldn't. He just awkwarded his way out of that situation, and oh my god. Oh, and also right before I just continue talking about the episode, let me just say that I last week went to go watch Deadpool. Like the day it came out, I went to go watch it with my brother. So if any of you guys have seen it and like want to talk to me about it, that would be wonderful because yeah. And also I think I mentioned this before that I'm like a huge fan of The Walking Dead, and so that started back this Sunday. And I don't think I've always wanted to do like these kinds of videos for like The Walking Dead and Supernatural, but I don't know, I just haven't and I can't, and so I think from here on out I'm just gonna say that I watched it because I watch it when it airs, because I watch it with my brother and my mom. So I watch it on Sundays when it airs. So if any of you guys watch that show and would like to talk about that also, that would be wonderful. If you could just please gush to me in the comments about The Walking Dead and Deadpool, because just, yeah. Okay, so on to the episode. It was amazing. Best one yet. They get better and better. Like, it's just, I'm gonna say that every time. So it started off very fast. It started off with Luke and Clary and Simon, and they're bringing Luke into Magnus's apartment, and Magnus, you know, bursts the door open, and it's like, what do you guys need? And I just loved the way that Magnus was like just frantically all around this entire episode, like when he was trying to help Luke, and he was just like frantically going around just so Magnus, and it was so wonderful. I love him. I love Harry as him, and I mean, Harry as Magnus is just like the perfect Magnus. I'll probably say, I can't even say this enough. He's just so perfect with his like glittery eyeliner and his highlights and just his whole, like, I really like his outfit in this so far. Like everything that we've seen him in, I just really like this red tunic, whatever thing you want to call it, that he was wearing in this episode. I love it so much. Okay, and so I thought it was funny when they are going to put Luke on the couch, and Magnus makes sure to put down a sheet on his couch because, you know, he redecorates pretty often, so he doesn't want anything on his couch. And then so that happens, and then so Luke is laying down and he has like this weird vision with Jocelyn, and so I don't know if they were back. It looked like they were back in Idris. Oh, we got to see Idris this episode. Thought that was pretty awesome. I'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, it's Luke as like present Luke, and so he's looking for Jocelyn. Jocelyn shows up, and you know, they have the whole, you need to tell her everything so that she can find or learn or whatever. And so I like that. I'm really excited to eventually see Jocelyn and Luke back together again, like when she eventually wakes up. I want to see them as a dynamic duo. I just like them together. Okay, so then right after that, he comes back to, you know, the real world, and let me just say right off the bat that Kat's acting throughout this entire episode was like one of my favorites, like, of all the episodes. She did a really good job, like her reactions and her just how she took everything and how she did everything. I really was impressed by Kat this episode. Okay, and so then he comes back, and it's the random, this is the thing that like irritates me, but it's fine, it's like 10 seconds, but the random title sequences that come on like at the most random times. Like Harry's like, oh, was he bitten by the alpha? Yeah, he was. And then roar, and then it's the title sequence. Like, why? We were in the middle of something. Why would you put that in the way? Okay, so then right after this scene, the majority of the scenes in this episode were in Magnus's apartment, and so we go to a scene with Isabel and Maris. Alright, so this whole thing with Maris and Isabel, so the Lightwoods, as we know, are very like proud Shadowhunters, and they are like the best of the best and everything like that. And so what's her name, Maris, is very what is the word, she cares about her standing in the clave. Like that's her utmost importance. Like that's what she cares about the most, and she's obviously very willing to like throw her kids under the bus in order to get their standing back and to get like just to feel and be important within the clave again. And so Isabel and Maris are having this whole conversation, and so we saw a picture last week or a couple weeks ago, and Maris is holding Isabel's like face in her hands, and so I'm thinking, oh well, maybe they're gonna have like a heartfelt moment. She's gonna be like, I love you, daughter. That's not what happened. So she was just telling her like about the politics, and Isabel like got off of her and was like, no. And it's just the whole Maris and Isabel things makes me so sad. So they don't, this is later on in the episode, but so Isabel finally finds out that, you know, they are going to marry off Alec because Maris knows that if they do that to Izzy, she's not going to go through with it. She's going to do everything that she can to, like, prevent the whatever marriage from happening. She's not going to do it. So she knows that her and Isabel know that Alec will do it. That Alec will feel like it is his duty and he will just go through with it despite everything. And Maris and Isabel both know this. So Maris is like, well, you're not gonna do it. Your brother's gonna do it. And Isabel's like, no, like, you're not gonna marry off my brother because that would literally ruin his life. And so I love protective Isabel and how she was so completely willing to do whatever it took to prevent this from happening. And then later on when we see her dressed as Maris, and I was like, that's so sad because she's like stripping a part of her identity away from herself, trying to protect her brother. And it's just like, oh my god. Okay, so aside from that, we go back to Magnus's apartment and what's his name? Luke is passed out, and he's gonna be passed out for a little bit anyways because what Magnus put like some tree bark in his mouth or something. And so Simon is looking down and like cat licks himself, like what? I just thought it was funny how he licked himself. He looked like a cat. And so yet another hint at his, you know, vampireness. And so I think we're gonna get that like really soon, because you know how they said that they were gonna put City of Bones and City of Ashes in the first season, and then like the second and third book in the second, and then so on and so forth. So we're gonna get Simon as a vampire in the first season, which is so exciting. Yeah, and so in that scene, and what's his name, Jace just shows up, and so I totally forgot about Jace. And so he comes in with like a battered like face, and Magnus, oh my god, I love Magnus. He just comes, he's like, hey, what happened to your face? And he's like, get off me. And so the reason why Jace has blood on his face is because he crashed Luke's car, and Clary's just like, dude, come on. He's like, I don't do mundane driving. Like, wow, such a dweeb. I feel like that would have been a really hilarious scene if they were to actually show him trying to park the car and him having a really hard time with trying to maneuver this mundane vehicle. That would have been hilarious. Oh, and then, okay, so Magnus is like, I don't have all the ingredients that I need to save Luke, so y'all gonna need to do some errands for me. And he's like, oh, by the way, I need Alexander. And so Jace is like, why? And he's like, oh, Shadowhunter, virgin Shadowhunter energy. I'm like, okay. And then Simon, that explains so much. Oh my god, that was funny. I really enjoyed that. Oh, and then like right after he says that, and Jace is just like, yeah, I can't do that. And what's his name? I love how Magnus just appeared in that little open space between him and Simon. He was like, trouble in paradise? He just appeared out of nowhere. That was great. Magnus this entire episode was just on point and beautiful. I loved it. And so yeah, besides that, Clary, I adored her this episode. I thought she did. I thought Kat and Clary were just wonderful. All of my favorite scenes involved Clary. Clary and Magnus, I mean, not despite, but because of all the Malik this episode, and yet my favorite scenes were with Clary, so I don't know. Oh yeah, but what I was saying, Clary is, they show this more later on in the episode when she talks to Alec again, but she's like, yeah, dude, you need to call Alec, and like, you need to talk to him. And so I just love how she's so concerned for Jace and Alec, because she knows that they're parabatai. She knows how much they love each other, even if she doesn't know, like, she gets the feeling. And so she's like, yeah, you need to call him. So I'm just really loving how concerned she is for Jace's and Alec's bond, and also for Alex as Alec. She's so concerned and loving, and I love it. Okay, so the next scene, we get Max, and I love Max so much. Like, he wasn't in the books that much at all, and like, I'm not a huge children person. I'm so awkward around children, but book children, fiction children, I adore them because they're always just really innocent, and they're always like the martyr, and it's just, I just can't. Or not the martyr, but just the one that things happen to in order to like affect the other people. And I just, he was so adorable. He comes in and he goes straight to Alec, and Alec is like, Max. I'm like, oh, he made him smile. And then what's it called? He's like, oh, that I got kicked out, or I got in trouble or something. And the whole little interaction about the rune, and when he left and he's just like, well, like, what you gonna do? He's so sassy and he's such a little troublemaker, and I love it. And the whole interaction between him and Alec and Izzy, and then when he hugged Izzy and he like messed up her hair, I thought that was so cute. Like, that was a really small detail in their whole interaction, but I just thought that was adorable. He was just like hugging his sister and like talking to Robert, like, whatever, man, I'm saying hi to my brother and sister, leave me alone. There's so much love between them despite like how their parents are, and I just think that's really cute because it wasn't really like that in the books. Like, they kind of cast him aside as like, you know, he was the little brother and he was kind of a nuisance, but in the show they're like making them all like a better family unit, and Max is like a little troublemaker, and it's just so cute. I'm really excited to see Jace interact with Max. I hope we get that like in the next episode since he's still gonna be there. I want to see it. Okay, so the next thing was Robert, and he had a scene with Izzy. Something's falling over there. Okay, he had a scene with Izzy, and it was really funny because he gave her that cookbook. So it was like another, it was another hint at like how bad Izzy's cooking is, and she's like, are you trying to tell me something? So I thought that was cute, but then he like lectures her, so it's like, And then another thing that I remembered from the book was that Izzy, she knows a secret between her parents. She knows that her father was unfaithful to her mother around the time that Max was born, and so she's the only one, well, obviously besides her parents, that know the secret, and so that's something that she has to live with, and that's hard to live with. And so not only does she have that on her shoulders, but now she has this added thing of her brother and of just everything that's happening. And so I just really want to give Izzy a hug and be like, can I love you? Because everybody else is getting love from everybody else and nobody is giving you love, and your brother is just, I just want to give Izzy a big hug and be like, it's okay, my child, it's okay. Alright, so then right after that, we come back to Magnus in his apartment, and so he is talking to Clary, and he's like, what they were making looked nasty. That thing, whatever they were making was so gross. And he's like, oh, about your boy toys. I'm like, funny. Oh, and then he said another thing that was right out, I think it was right out of the book because I kept seeing that on Tumblr, when he's like, you can't think like that, Biscuit. I'm like, oh God, you and your names. I took notes, but they're like stuck together because I kind of spilled some coffee on these things. Okay, and then we flash back to the young Valentine, I was gonna say Lucy, what? Jocelyn and Luke. Oh, Luke, that's why. So I really enjoyed all of the actors. I really liked that flashback. We got to see Idris. Like, I was watching that scene and I'm like, are they in Idris? Because you could see the glass, the city of glass behind them. And I was just very excited to see Idris. Like, it was just really cool. I was not expecting to see it already. Oh, and I thought it was so funny how they kept calling him Val. Luke and Jocelyn was like, oh, Val, hey, Val. It was just really funny hearing them say Val, because we know Valentine now as this evil person, and they knew him when he was, you know, still a good guy. And so it was just funny hearing them say Val to Valentine. It was like, ugh. Okay, so then right after that, we come back to Magnus's apartment, and Luke, like, is starting to wake up. And so Magnus goes to him and he was like, let me take your pain away. And so he does, and it was just like, Scott McCall, Teen Wolf. I don't know, it just reminded me of that, because you know how in Teen Wolf the werewolves can like take other people's pain away? It just reminded me of that. Anyways, and so I'm really visually enjoying how Magnus's magic looks. I really like that. Just how it looks. I like it. It doesn't look cheesy to me, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Okay, and so then right after that part is the part with Jace and Simon, because they went off to get the extra ingredients that Magnus needed. And so they're walking, and Simon hit a nerve in Jace, and so he was like, I was really glad that he called him out on how he was treating Alec, because truthfully he was not treating him as well as he should have, and somebody else noticed. So Jace was like, Simon hit a nerve with him, and I like that, because then at the end of the episode they kind of like got back together again, or they, you know. Oh, I wrote down here, I'm like, oh, we already have Domberto, and so now I can't wait for Jimin. Okay, and then Simon, you know, freaks out after Jace is like, oh yeah, you're gonna be nothing more than a friend to Clary. And so that hit a nerve with Simon, and so he freaked out, and he like I don't know where he got that knife. He pulled a knife out onto Jace, and so Jace like looked at him and was like, what's wrong with you? Because he even mentioned, like, he grabbed him and he, like, asked him what happened at the Hotel Dumont. And so, like, they're noticing stuff because in the last episode, Alec kind of looked at him, but Jace brought it up. Oh, and then I remember there was, like, behind the scenes a long time ago, of them doing that scene, and what's it, I don't know if you remember, Alberto, like, got really close to him and tried to kiss him, and Jason and Dom was like, ugh. So yeah, I really like that scene. And then later on when, and then Simon sees himself, he sees, or he thinks he sees Camille, and then he goes over there and then he sees himself with the bite marks on him. So that's like another hint of his transition. And then it was really cool because right after that, Jace comes running out, and then they're followed by a demon. So I thought that was really cool to actually get to see a demon. Jace killed it really fast, but I thought that was cool. Okay, and then we come back to the Institute and we have that scene with Maris and Alec. And despite everything, I really like that scene. We go in and Maris is like getting teary-eyed, so it shows that she's still human because she has been very cold to everybody since the first time that we saw her in the last episode. And so I just really like this whole interaction between her and Alec because, I mean, she's not really that caring towards Izzy, but at least she is a little bit towards Alec. And I don't know, like, it's complicated because Maris, I feel like, she is a very complicated character. She obviously loves her kids. Like, she loves her kids. But I think I said this in another video. She loves and she cares more about her positioning more, I think. So she's willing to, like, sacrifice her children's happiness for that. And I feel like that's a turmoil within herself because she doesn't want to do that, yet she has to because she cares about the Clave more. And so, I don't know, I just think, I know a lot of people don't really like Maris, but I feel like she's a very complicated character and I'm really excited to see more of her. And maybe I didn't even think of this until right now, maybe she's the one who stops the marriage towards the end. Maybe she's the one that stops it. That would be a really cool character arc. I just thought of that. That would be really cool. And then I have a note here. I'm like, despite being a pretty fast-paced episode, it almost felt slow because of everything that Clary was learning throughout the entire episode with Magnus and with Luke. And so the first like 20 minutes were really fast, and then there was just like scene after scene after scene of like people, just all of them doing something and trying to get something done. But then also Clary was also still learning about the learning about the circle and learning about, you know, Valentine and her mom and everything. And so despite it being fast, it was definitely one of those episodes where it's like it slows down a little bit, so you can learn more about the world and the characters and everything. So I really like that about this episode. Okay, then right after that we have the Alec and Izzy scene, and this is when Izzy goes to Alec and she's like, dude, they're gonna marry us off. Like, she tells him that. And so I wasn't expecting that this episode. I didn't see that coming. But I was really happy to see that because then we're gonna get Lydia in like next episode? Following? Next episode. And I felt so bad for Izzy because she went up to him and she was like, she was teary-eyed, like her eyes were glistening because she was gonna cry. And it was like, oh, Izzy, it's okay. And Alec, like, you could tell, like, okay, like when she was like, you know, it's gonna be okay, she put her hand on her shoulder, and then he just pushed her away, and so you could just see her like crumbling inside. I was like, oh no. And then right after that, when Alec is like, screw this, screw everybody, screw all this. And I thought it was kind of funny that I know he walked down the stairs kind of Obama-ish. I thought it was funny. Like, went down a little bit sideways. You know how Obama gets off of his airplanes? That was just something I noticed. I don't know. Oh, and then one little tidbit I think I wrote here was that fast slow motion that they're doing to try and make them seem like they're going a lot faster. That's one special effect that I don't really care for that much because, except I think they're doing better because this episode it looked a lot better when when Alec was training, and then later on in the sneak peek no, that was slow motion, never mind. But in this episode when Alec was training and they were doing that, it looked a lot better in my opinion than in like the third or fourth episode or whenever they did that. So I didn't really care for that, but I think they're improving on it, so it looks pretty cool. Okay, and then we get to the part that everybody was going crazy for, or one of the two parts, but the Malik scene. And it's when Luke is, you know, dying and Magnus is trying to do his warlock magic on him and it's like pouring out of his hands, and so he's like he's like it's very straining to him. And so then Alec comes to the rescue and he goes up to Magnus and they just have that intense eye stare, and then he's like, I need your strength and take what you need. And I was just like, ah! And then right after that, when Simon and Jace come back, and then Clary does the whole potion and everything and whatever, and he gives it to Luke, and so Magnus doesn't have to use his powers anymore. And so he just like slumps on Alec's shoulder and just looks up at him, and he's like, you okay? He's like, yeah. I was like, ah! I can't tell if like it's getting darker in here or anything, because I have to like keep stopping the camera to upload videos onto my computer, because my camera can only take like 15 minutes of footage at a time, which is really annoying. But we're just gonna keep on going. Where the heck was I? Oh, Malik, that is where I was. Okay, so that happened. That was wonderful. And then after that, what the heck? More Alec. Okay, okay. Okay, so the Alec and Clary scene. I am loving Alec and Clary. They are my ultimate bro TP. Like, they're so much better, in my opinion, than the book, because like they're actually becoming friends, kind of like they're heading there, and it's wonderful. Yeah, so Alec and Clary. So Alec sees her and was like, and so walks. Clary's like, oh, I'm really happy that, what did she say? About, you know, him and Jace and how they're like back to being cool or whatever. And he's like, I didn't do it for Jace. And she's like, well, then I'm glad you did it for you. And I'm just like, oh, concerned, happy friends. I love it. I'm loving it. And then Jace comes in, and then he said they hug each other, and then Jace says thank you, and then Alec's like, sure bro, and walks off. And I was just and then right after that, after the parabatai love, parabatai, I cringe a little bit every time they say parabatai, just because when I was reading the book I said parabati, and that just sounds more Shadowhunter-y to me. So okay, anyway, so then after that is the Simon and Jace scene, and I like that scene. So Simon walks up, because there was a little Clace moment, and I selfishly kind of want to see more Clace, just because reasons and stuff. And I understand that Clary is a little preoccupied at the moment because her mom is kind of missing, her dad is kind of evil, and her stepdad is kind of dying and everything. But it's like, and so I totally understand that, but like for selfish reasons, I just want to see more Clace interaction, because so far we've only had like them gazing at each other. They haven't really talked, or Jace hasn't really opened up to her, which is what I want to see, and I know it's coming, but I just want it faster. And I love how how Jace like touches her cheek every single time that they talk to each other. I'm like, you guys better do that during your first kiss, because I want to see it. Okay, so then right after that is the Simon and Jace scene, and so Jace is like, hey Simon, and he doesn't say sorry, but you can see it on his face. And so Simon understands, and he's like, it's alright, bro. And so he leaves the $20 on the couch right there. And at first I'm like, why is he leaving him $50? It looked like $50 to me. What is wrong with my head? But he leaves him the $20, and that's because of earlier when they were like fighting, and he's like, oh, $20 to Alec leaves you hanging. And that's the kind of stuff that I like to see. I like that continuity. Good job, writers. That was good. And it was really funny because right after I saw that, it totally reminded me of that one scene in the Avengers, when Steve was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that there's nothing that could surprise me now. And so, what's his name? Fury's like, oh yeah, $10 that you're wrong. And then, that later scene when Nick goes on to, not Nick, when Steve goes on to the, you know, the airline thing that's huge, it's invisible, and then he goes and he gives him the $10, like without saying anything. It reminded me of that, and I enjoyed it. Oh, and then another quick little thing that I really thought was adorable and that I loved was that scene with Izzy and Max, and she's like showing him the runes with the rune note cards. I thought that was so cute. And then he's like, is that the nourishment rune? She's like, Max, you know that that's the heat rune. And then Maris comes in and was like, oh, that, you know, can we talk to each other? And Max is like, I never get to hear the good stuff, and then walks off. I thought that was adorable. But another thing that I noticed in that scene that I also really enjoyed was that Maris, she like smiled at him and like patted his head as he walked out, and so that kind of shows that she doesn't treat Max like she treats her other children, because he's the younger one. And so I was a little bit worried about how they were going to do that, or not worried, but I was curious. And so it obviously seems like he's obviously the baby of the family, and everybody treats him that way, and Maris like loves him so much and like wouldn't do anything to like seriously alter his life like she's gonna do with Alec. And so I really like that. I thought that was cute, and that's just gonna make a certain something a lot harder to watch. Okay, and then right after that, I thought it was really funny. Okay, so Luke is awake, and so what's her name, Clary, goes to talk to him, and Magnus is like tucking him into his bed. Magnus's bed, it's very Magnus. I like, my favorite color is red. I don't think it was really red, but I really enjoyed his bed. But yeah, and so Luke is like, thank you, Magnus, and Magnus is like, you're welcome, and walks off. I just like that little 2 seconds for some reason. Okay, so then we have the whole scene with Luke and Clary, and they're talking, and he's like explaining everything to her, and that was another scene that I really, really enjoyed. And it was really funny when when Luke was like, yeah, that made your mom fell in love, and she's like, wait a minute, are you, he's like, what? No! I'm like, Clary, do you look like you could be his child? I don't know why. I saw that on Tumblr like a few times. I'm like, really, Clary? Cause, okay. And I also really like she acts different. Not different in a bad way, just different around Luke. Like, she obviously seemed more upset. She just wanted to know more information. And I like how Kat altered her acting a little bit for that scene, because Luke is family. And so she's known him all her life. Like, he's basically her dad. And so I like how she was just a little bit more frantic and a little bit different around him, because of the fact that they are family and that she can like say whatever she wants around him. And I just really enjoyed that. Oh my god! The box! They mentioned the box again. Or not again. Again? Again. Yeah. I can... This box, man, I cannot with this box. And so JC, and then he's like, it's Jonathan, that's okay. Jonathan Christopher, and she's like, who's that? And he's like, nope. And I thought that was funny. But then he's like, oh, it's your brother. And her face when she heard that, really good acting on Kat's part. I thought that was wonderful. But yeah, the Sebastian, Jonathan, just the whole Sebastian thing, like, I don't know if I'm more excited for his character or if I'm more excited for all the events that are caused because of this character. I don't know what it is, but I'm really excited for him to come. And Komai, is that what it said at the end of the 3rd book? I don't remember. Another thing that I noticed, how wonderful that they bring Max into this whole world, and also mention Sebastian. I secure my trash to like get rid of itself, and then it freaks me out every single time it comes on. But yeah, how wonderful is it that they mentioned Max, they brought him to the show for the first time, and then they also mentioned Jonathan or Sebastian for the first time. I don't like that. I see what you're doing, writers. Also, another side note, I'm really loving Clary's like ring thing that she has going on. It's like very just thin, and I like it. I wouldn't be able to wear that because like I have sausage-like fingers. So, oh, and then the angel Raziel is how Luke says it, and I'm like, great, that's another word that I was pronouncing wrong the entire time because it's spelled R-A-Z-I-E-L, and so I'm like Raziel, like Castiel, but no, it's Raziel. So, oh, and then also with the Luke and Clary scene when she brought out the box and she touched the paper, no, she touched the box and it became the drawing. That was so cool. And then it was a flashback to the first episode, and then she's like, I know where the cup is, and I was like, oh my god, things are progressing. Things are getting somewhere. Oh, and then there was another really sad scene with Izzy and how she's like, how she was saying goodbye to Meliorn and she was writing that letter. And I remember seeing behind the scenes like a long time ago, they released a video of her like practicing that with the letter and the fire. And then she like is changing, she's putting her hair back, she has that long dress that her mom was wearing, or it looks like the one that her mom was wearing, and she's just stripping that part away from herself to just and it was sad. It was sad. Okay, and then we leave off with the second Malik scene. That was a wonderful scene. I enjoyed it immensely. I just love the fact, I notice this every single time, I just love the fact that Matt is so much taller than everybody and Harry. I just, I love that so much. And it was funny when Magnus was like, oh, a drink, and so Alec drinks it and he like makes a face, and Magnus is just like smiling as he does it. I'm like, oh, he thinks you're adorable. And it was also, Magnus was talking to Alec and was like, you unlocked something within me, and I haven't loved anyone, man or woman, in the past 100 years, and I was feeling myself fade away or something, and that you unlocked something. And he looked really sad, and I thought Harry did a wonderful job with this scene, and he just looked, like I said, he looked really sad, and he was talking about that, like, and then Alec, during one part of the scene, was like, oh, well, why did you invite me? And, or Magnus was like, because I wanted to see you, and he's like, why? And Magnus's, like, reaction to that, I'm like, Alec, you is smart, you is kind, you is important. Oh, my Alec, he needs to be loved, he needs to be loved. So much love needs to happen to this boy. So yeah, that whole Malik scene, and then he's like, oh, stay for another drink and then go back to do whatever, and Alec's like, okay. And then it was so nice, and it was so soft, and it was just very nice, and I liked it. So I think that was all I had to say for this episode. It was so good. I loved it so. Every episode is like my favorite as they go along, and so I saw the sneak peeks for next week, and like I said at the beginning of the episode, the one with Izzy and Alec, that looks like it's going to be wonderful. And then with Jace and Clary inside of that closet, also going to be wonderful, and I'm just so excited for all these. We're already kind of halfway through the season. We're in episode 6, and then next week is episode 7, and there's only 13, so I am just loving this show so much, and it's just the highlight of my week, and this is I'm just loving it. Okay, so I think that is all I have to say for this episode. It was so good. Please leave all your comments down below about everything and anything. I love having my conversations with you guys. So just the usual, like I say, put your comments down below, and I will get back to all of you ASAP. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Ugh.